She spent her whole life serving everyone, and on the day of the party she was treated like nobody else. Donna Helena was there, in a corner of the room decorated with golden balloons and a lavish table she had helped prepare. The party was for her brother Arnaldo, who was turning 65. She had arrived early, helped arrange the chairs, organized the snacks, and even brought the dulce de leche that everyone loved from home. But now, while everyone laughed and took pictures, she was just a shadow leaning against the wall. Patricia, the niece, ran everything efficiently. She was the one who organized the party, chose the venue, and drew up the guest list. And she was also the one who, in the middle of the celebration, gathered the family for the official photo. "Come on, everyone, family photo." Patricia lifted her cell phone and began organizing the people. Arnaldo in the center, his wife Marta beside him, their children, their grandchildren. Donna Helena took a timid step forward, adjusting the discreet necklace she wore, but Patricia raised her hand, as if stopping traffic. "Now, just the direct core, guys, then we'll take it out with everyone." The sentence was spoken naturally, almost without looking at her, but Donna Helena felt as if she'd been slapped in the face. The direct core. She wasn't part of it. She stood there, the smile fading from her lips, as the flash went off 3, 4 times. No one noticed. No one said anything. Arnaldo didn't even look in her direction. She returned to the corner, her trembling hands clutching the worn purse. Shame burned in her chest. It wasn't anger yet. It was something worse. The feeling of being invisible, of not mattering, of being there, but not being there. Half an hour later, Donna Helena left the party silently. She took back the jar of untouched dulce de leche. No one noticed she was gone. And it was at that moment, walking alone down the dark sidewalk, that something inside her began to break. But also, unbeknownst to her, something was about to be born. Donna Helena wasn't a woman who complained about life. She had learned early on that complaining didn't change anything, so she simply did what needed to be done. Born into a simple family in the countryside, she was the second of 5 siblings. Her father died when she was 16, and her mother, Donna Aparecida, held the household together as best she could, sewing outside the home and raising her children with a firm hand and a heavy heart. Helena was the one who helped the most. He dropped out of school in his sophomore year to work in a textile factory. He woke up at 5 in the morning, returned at 6 in the evening, and still helped his mother with dinner and the evening sewing. Arnaldo, the youngest brother, was the family's favorite, smart, charismatic, full of dreams. His mother said he would go far, and he did, but Helena paid for his prep school with the factory's hard-earned money. At 23, she married Marcos, a quiet man who worked as a mechanic. They had 2 children, Renato and Julia. The marriage wasn't bad, but it wasn't all that great either. Marcos was absent, the kind of man who would come home tired, eat, and go to sleep. Helena raised the children practically alone. She took them to school, helped with homework, sewed costumes for June festivals, and baked birthday cakes with handmade colored frosting. When Renato turned 15, Marcos had a massive heart attack while repairing a car. He died right there in the shop. Helena cried, of course, but deep down, the routine hadn't changed much. She was already used to handling everything on her own. The years passed. Renato graduated in business administration, got married, and moved to another city. Julia became a teacher, also married, and had 2 children. Visits became rare. A Sunday lunch here, a Christmas there. Always rushed, always in a hurry. Helena understood. Their lives were full, right? She didn't want to be a burden. Arnaldo, the brother, prospered. He opened a construction materials store that grew rapidly. He married Marta, an elegant and practical woman, and had 3 children. Patricia, the eldest, was ambitious and organized. She inherited her father's firm manner and her mother's pragmatism. To her, Donna Helena was the aunt who was always there, but never someone who truly mattered. Helena never demanded anything from anyone. When her mother fell ill, she was the one who dropped everything to care for her. She stayed by Donna Aparecida's bedside for 6 months, cleaning, feeding, and talking softly. Arnaldo would come by on weekends, always in a hurry. On the day of the funeral, he cried a lot and gave a beautiful speech. But the one who had stayed there, day after day, was Helena. She lived alone now, in a simple little house with a small yard and a jabuticaba tree that bore fruit every year. Her routine was predictable. She woke up early, drank coffee while gazing at the empty street. cleaned the house, watched her soap operas, and prayed the rosary before bed. On weekends, she called her children. The conversations were short. "Are you okay, Mom?" "Everything, my son." "So, how are the children?" "Everything is going well, Mom. We'll talk later, okay?" Kisses. She hung up the phone and stared at the wall. It wasn't sadness, it was an emptiness she knew so well it no longer hurt. Until, 3 weeks before the party, the phone rang. It was Patricia, Aunt Helena. "Hi. Look, we're going to throw a party for Grandpa Arnold out. 65 years old. We wanted to do something cool." "You're going, right?" Helena felt her heart race. A party, an invitation. It had been so long since she'd been included in anything like this. "Of course, my daughter. Of course I will." "Great. It's in the club hall, on the 15th, 7 in the afternoon. You can bring something if you want, but you don't need to worry, okay? We've already booked a buffet." Helena thanked him, hung up, and stood in the middle of the room. After so many years, an invitation had rekindled her desire to belong. She didn't know it yet, but that phone call would be the beginning of everything. After so many years, an invitation rekindled her desire to belong. Donna Helena spent the next few days feeling an inner turmoil she didn't even know she was capable of feeling anymore. It wasn't exactly happiness. It was something like hope. A light but persistent feeling, like a little bird returning to her chest. She decided to go all out. She wasn't going to show up just any old way. After all, it was her brother's party. And even though Patricia had told her not to worry, Helena couldn't go empty-handed. It wasn't like her. On Wednesday morning, she rummaged through her entire closet. She had few clothes, and most of them were simple. Cotton dresses, dark skirts, plain blouses. But there in the back, hanging on a wire hanger, was the navy blue dress she had worn to Julia's wedding. It wasn't new, but it was beautiful. It had a good fit, 3/4 sleeves, and an elegant understatement. She took the dress off the hanger, ran her hand over the fabric, and felt a pang of longing. That day, she had felt important, the mother of the bride. She had taken pictures, been congratulated, and heard compliments. Now, the dress smelled of mothballs and time standing still. Helena took the dress to the laundromat on the corner and had it washed and pressed carefully. When she picked it up 3 days later, it was immaculate. She hung it on her bedroom door and smiled to herself. "It's still enough," he muttered. On Saturday, she decided to make dulce de leche. It was the sweet her mother had taught her to make, with fresh milk, sugar, and patience. Helena turned on the heat, put the pot on the stove, and stood there, stirring slowly, watching the milk thicken and darken. The house filled with a sweet, old-fashioned smell that brought back fond memories. She remembered her mother, standing in the small kitchen, stirring the same pot. She remembered Arnoldo as a boy, sitting at the table, eagerly waiting to scrape the spoon. She remembered when life still seemed full of people. The dessert was just right. She poured it into a glass jar, let it cool, and then stored it in the refrigerator. Arnoldo always liked it, she thought. Maybe he'd remember. Maybe he'd even be grateful. During the week, he called Renato. "Son, are you going to Uncle Arnoldo's party?" "Oh, Mom, I don't know if I can. It's been hectic here at work. But it's his birthday, right?" "He's your uncle, I know, Mom. But I'll see you later. Are you going?" "I will. Of course I will." "Okay then. Give him a kiss." He also called Julia. "Daughter, will you be there on the 15th? Where, Ma?" "At your uncle's party." "Oh no, Ma. The kids have soccer practice. And it's far away, right?" Helena didn't insist. She never insisted. The day before the party, she took a long bath, applied hand cream, and manicured her nails. She slept poorly. She woke up several times, checking her watch, worried about missing the time. When morning came, she got up early and paced around the house, unable to do anything properly. That afternoon, she began getting ready. She put on her navy blue dress, tied her hair in a low bun, and applied the pink lipstick Julia had given her last Christmas and never used. She looked in the mirror and didn't recognize herself at first. She looked like a different person. Or maybe it was herself, who had long since stopped showing up. She grabbed the jar of dulce de leche, put it in her bag, locked the house, and left. The salon was a 20-minute bus ride away. She arrived about 15 minutes early. There were balloons at the entrance, music playing inside, and people coming and going. Helena took a deep breath. She was nervous. but she was also happy. It had been a long time since she'd felt this way. He entered. The party was beautiful. Decorated tables, plentiful food, elegant people. She saw Arnoldo in the center, laughing loudly, surrounded by friends. Marta circulated with a glass of wine in her hand, greeting everyone. Patricia was holding a clipboard, organizing everything like a general. Helena stood in the doorway, clutching her purse with both hands. She waited for someone to notice. No one did. She walked to an empty table in the corner and sat down. She stood there, watching, waiting, and it was like that, in that silent wait, that she began to realize no one really cared that she was there. The room was full. Voices mingled with the ambient music, laughter echoed between the decorated tables, and the coming and going of waiters with trays created a seemingly perfect party atmosphere. But Donna Helena, sitting alone in a chair in the corner of the room, felt as if she were watching everything from afar, as if there were an invisible glass between her and the rest of the world. She had tried to get closer. As soon as she arrived, she walked over to Arnoldo, who was in the middle of a group of friends telling a funny story. She waited for a break, a space in the conversation. But her brother was so excited, he didn't even notice her standing next to him. After a few minutes, Helena gave up and went back to her corner. Later, she saw Marta, her sister-in-law, and waved with a shy smile. Marta returned a quick wave, but soon turned to help someone else. Patricia passed her twice without saying anything, always with her cell phone in her hand, always busy. Helena took the jar of dulce de leche from her bag and discreetly placed it on a side table, near the snacks. No one noticed. She watched from afar, waiting for someone to try it. No one did. The party continued. People danced, ate, and took selfies. Donna Helena was still there, smiling at passersby, but no one stopped to talk. She was like an old piece of furniture in a crowded house. She was there, but no one paid attention. It was then that Patricia took the microphone. Everyone, attention. The voice echoed through the room. The conversations died down, and everyone turned to her. Before we cut the cake, we're going to take an official family photo. Okay, I want everyone gathered here at the front. A lively buzz filled the room. People began to stand and organize themselves. Arnoldo walked to the center, smiling broadly, adjusting his jacket. Marta stood beside him, elegant as ever. The children and grandchildren began to take their positions around them. Donna Helena felt her heart beat faster. She stood up slowly, straightened her dress, and began walking toward the group. Her steps were uncertain, but there was a hint of anticipation. It was family. She was part of it. Always had been. Patricia was organizing everyone with her cell phone in hand, indicating who was where. Grandpa in the middle, Grandma Marta on the side. That's it. Children behind, grandchildren in front. Perfect. Helena took a few more steps. She was almost there. She gave a small smile and stood there, waiting to be included. But Patricia raised her hand, as if stopping someone in traffic. Hold on, guys. Let me get this organized. She looked around, counting people, adjusting their positions. And then, as naturally as possible, she said, now, just the direct core. Guys, later we'll take it out with everyone, okay? The sentence fell like a stone into Donna Helena's stomach. Direct core. She stopped where she was. Her legs seemed to have forgotten how to walk. The smile faded from her lips. She looked at Arnoldo, but he wasn't looking at her. She looked at Marta, who was distractedly fixing her hair. She looked at her nephews, who were already posing for the photo. Nobody said anything. No one said, Aunt Helena, come here. No one looked in her direction. No one noticed that she had taken those steps towards the group, with hope. The flash went off. Once, twice, 3 times. Beautiful. Another one. Patricia commanded, excited. Helena stood there, just a few feet from her family, like a pillar of salt. The shame was hot and heavy. It burned her face, her chest, her throat. She wanted to disappear. She wanted the ground to open up and swallow her. Slowly, she took a step back, then another. She walked away, until she was back in the corner, where she'd spent the entire party. She sat in the chair and stared at the floor. Her hands were shaking. Her eyes were burning, but she didn't let a single tear fall. Not here, not in front of everyone. The party continued. The cake was cut. People sang happy birthday. Arnoldo gave an emotional speech, thanking everyone for their presence, their friendship, and their affection. He didn't mention Helena, not once. She sat motionless, clutching her purse in her lap as if it were the only solid thing in the world. The music started playing again. People started dancing again. And Donna Helena, little by little, began to understand that she didn't belong. She never had. She stood up silently. She grabbed her purse, walked to the small table where she'd left the dulce de leche, and picked it back up. No one had eaten it. No one had even noticed. She walked slowly across the room, past groups of excited conversation, past children running around, past Arnaldo laughing loudly, surrounded by friends. No one noticed her leaving. At the door, she paused for a second. She turned and looked back. She saw the whole party, the lights, the colors, the happy people. And she, invisible, leaving through the back door. She walked down the dark sidewalk, alone, holding the candy jar in her hand. Her heels clicked on the cement. The cold night wind hit her face, and it was only then that she realized she was crying. It wasn't a sob. It was a silent tear, slowly running down her face, wetting her face and falling onto the navy blue dress she had chosen so carefully. When she got home, she took off her dress and hung it on the bedroom door. She put the candy in the refrigerator. She sat on the edge of the bed and stayed there, in the darkness, listening to the silence of the empty house. And it was that night, in that heavy and painful silence, that Donna Helena made a promise to herself. She didn't yet know how or when, but she knew one thing with absolute certainty: I would never be invisible again. The days that followed were the hardest. Donna Helena woke up early, as always, but she lay there staring at the ceiling. She didn't feel like getting up. She didn't feel like doing anything. The house was silent, and the silence was too heavy. She was trying to keep busy. She swept the house, washed dishes, watered the plants, but it all seemed pointless. Every time she walked past the kitchen, she saw the jar of dulce de leche in the fridge, untouched, and felt a tightness in her chest. She'd been stupid. Stupid to think she mattered. Stupid to get ready, to make the dessert, to believe it would be different. The humiliation came back in waves. The scene replayed in her head, over and over, Patricia saying only the direct nucleus, Arnaldo smiling without looking at her, the family posing while she stood outside. And worst of all, the silence that came afterwards. Nobody called. Arnaldo didn't send a message thanking her for coming. Patricia didn't ask why she'd left early. Marta said nothing. It was as if she'd never been there, as if it didn't matter. Helena sat on the sofa and picked up the phone. She stared at the screen for a long time. She wanted to call someone. She wanted to vent. But to whom? He called Renato. Hi Mom, how are you? Everything. Son, are you, are you busy? I'm at work now. Mom, did something happen? She hesitated. She wanted to say it. She wanted to tell him everything. But instead, she just murmured, no, nothing. I just wanted to hear your voice. Oh, that's great. Look, I'll call you later. Okay, kisses. He hung up. Helena held the phone, feeling an immense emptiness. She tried calling Julia the next day. Her daughter answered, but she was in a hurry. Mom, I'm leaving now. Do you need anything? No, daughter. It's just that I went to Uncle Arnoldo's party. Oh yeah, and how was it? Helena struggled to find the words. How could she explain that pain? How could she say she had felt humiliated, invisible, discarded? The party was beautiful. That's great, Mom. Look, I have to go. Okay, we'll talk. And he hung up. Donna Helena stood in the middle of the room, phone in hand. And then, for the first time, he felt angry. Not at Patricia, nor at Arnaldo. Angry at herself, for having kept quiet, for having swallowed everything, for having left that party without saying a word. Why didn't I say anything? He whispered to the void. Why did I let you? But she already knew the answer. Because she'd always been like that. She'd always swallowed it. She'd always accepted it. She'd always been the one who gave in, the one who understood, the one who didn't make a fuss. And where had that led? To a party corner. To being left out of a family photo. To going home alone, with a sweet treat no one wanted to eat. The days dragged on. Helena barely ate. She was losing weight. The navy blue dress still hung on her bedroom door like an accusing ghost. She couldn't put it away. She couldn't look at it. But she couldn't take it down either. One night, sitting at the kitchen table, she saw her mother's old notebook on the sideboard. It was a recipe book, with Donna Aparecida's shaky handwriting. Helena hadn't touched it since her birthday. But that night, she picked up the notebook and began to leaf through it. Cornmeal cake recipe, coconut candy recipe, rice pudding recipe, And in the middle of the pages, handwritten, were little phrases her mother had jotted down, random thoughts, advice for herself. And then, on a page yellowed with time, Helena read, "Respect is not asked for, it is imposed." She stared at that sentence for a long time. She read it again and again. She felt something stir inside her, something that had been dormant, stifled, forgotten. Respect is not asked for. She had spent her entire life asking for respect, between the lines, in her gestures, in her silence, waiting for someone to recognize her worth, waiting for someone to say, "You matter." But no one had said it, and no one was going to say it, because respect is not asked for, it is imposed. Donna Helena slowly closed her notebook. She looked around the empty house. She looked at her hands, wrinkled and tired, and for the first time in many days, she felt something other than pain. He felt determination. She didn't know what she was going to do yet. She didn't have a plan. But she knew one thing. She wasn't going to continue being invisible. She wasn't going to continue waiting for someone to give her permission to exist. If no one was going to value her, she would value herself. And it was like that, on that silent night, with an old notebook in her hands and an old phrase echoing in her head, that Donna Helena decided that the pain was over. Now, it was time to start over. The change didn't come overnight. It came slowly, like someone learning to walk again after a big fall. Donna Helena woke up one Thursday morning and looked at the blue dress still hanging on the door. She got up, picked up the dress, and put it in the back of the closet. I wasn't going to throw it away, but I also wasn't going to leave it there, remembering what had happened. He went to the kitchen, made some coffee, and sat down at the table. He grabbed a pen and paper and began to write. What do I like to do? She stared at the question for a while. When was the last time she'd asked herself that? When was the last time she'd done something for herself, other than to care for someone, please someone, serve someone? She thought, and little by little, the answers came. She loved to sew. She'd learned from her mother, and had always been good at it. She loved to cook, to invent recipes, to see people's faces when they tried something she'd made. She loved to talk, to hear stories, to be around people. Helena looked at the list and felt a glimmer of something like hope. The following Saturday, she saw a poster at the bakery. It was an announcement for a community group that met weekly at the neighborhood church. Embroidery, crochet, and sewing were part of the group. Women from the neighborhood gathered to talk and create. Donna Helena wrote down the time. On Wednesday, at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, she was there. The group was small. About 7 or 8 women of varying ages sat in a circle in a simple little room. It smelled of fresh coffee and coconut soap. A white-haired woman, Donna Lords, was at the front. "Are you new around here?" she asked with a wide smile. "I am. My name is Helena." "Welcome, Helena. Come sit here with us. Do you know how to sew?" "I know a little. So you're home." And so it was, in that cramped little room, that Donna Helena began to come to her senses. The women talked about everything: children, husbands, recipes, problems, joys. No one interrupted her. No one ignored her. She spoke, and the others listened. She laughed, and the others laughed along. For the first time in a long time, Helena felt seen. The weeks passed. She never missed a single meeting. She began bringing cakes to the group, and the women praised them and asked for the recipe. Donna Lords suggested, "Helena, have you ever thought about selling these cakes? They're so good." The idea seemed absurd at first. Selling cakes. Heard, but little by little, the seed grew. Helena made a few cakes and took them to the neighborhood fair. She sold them all in 2 hours, made more, sold again. People started ordering. "Do you make carrot cake, chocolate cake, gingerbread?" She started making them, and the more she made them, the more confident she became. It wasn't about the money. It was about being good at something, about having a purpose, about waking up in the morning knowing you mattered. The months passed. Donna Helena was different. Her hair was neater. Her eyes had a sparkle they hadn't had before. She smiled more, laughed more, and best of all, she wasn't waiting for anyone to notice. She was living for herself. It was on a Saturday morning, at the fair, that it happened. Donna Helena was arranging the cakes on the stand when she heard a familiar voice, "Tia Helena." She looked up and saw Patricia standing there, a shopping bag in her hand and a surprised expression on her face. Patricia Helena said the name calmly, without emotion. "Wow, Auntie, I didn't know you sold cakes here." "Yes, I do. I've been for a few months now. Patricia looked at the stall, the well-presented cakes, the handwritten sign with the prices. There was something in her gaze. Maybe astonishment, maybe discomfort. That's great, Aunt. And how are you? I'm fine, Patricia. Very fine, actually. A brief silence fell between the two. Patricia fiddled with the strap of her bag, clearly at a loss for words. We missed you after Grandpa's party. You left so early. Double quotes. Helena held her niece's gaze. There was no anger there, no hurt, just a serenity that came from someone who had made peace with herself. I left at the right time, Patricia. The sentence hung in the air. Patricia opened her mouth to say something, but couldn't. She understood. Perhaps for the first time, she understood. Auntie, you don't need to say anything, Helena interrupted, gently but firmly. I spent a long time waiting for people to see me, but I've learned that respect isn't something you ask for. It's something you demand. Before, I expected respect. Today, I have it. Patricia swallowed hard. She nodded, picked up her bag, and murmured a barely audible "bye, Auntie" before leaving. Helena went back to arranging the cakes. A customer approached, complimented the products, and bought 3. Donna Lords, who was at the next stall selling crochet, looked at Helena and smiled. You're different, Helena. Stronger. I am myself, Lords. It just took me a while to remember who I was. A few weeks later, Arnoldo showed up at her house. He rang the doorbell on a Sunday afternoon. When Helena opened the door and saw him standing there, cap in hand, an embarrassed expression on her face, she didn't feel angry. She felt sorry. Yes, Helena. Hi, Arnaldo, come in. He entered slowly, looking around the house, as if seeing it for the first time. He sat on the sofa while Helena made coffee. When she returned with the cups, he finally spoke. I came to apologize. Helena placed the coffee on the table and sat in the chair across from him. Why? For the party. I should have asked you to take a picture. I should have paid attention. You were always there, Helena. You always helped everyone. And I treated you like you didn't matter. Helena took a sip of her coffee. She let the silence settle for a moment. Then, in a calm voice, she replied, You treated me the way I let others treat me, Arnaldo. I spent my whole life being invisible because I kept erasing myself. But that's over. I no longer need you, or anyone, to tell me that I have value. I already know I do. Arnaldo lowered his eyes, embarrassed. I'm sorry, sister. I know you feel it, and I forgive you. But forgiving doesn't mean going back to who I was. I've changed, Arnaldo, and I'm not going back. He nodded silently. They drank their coffee, chatted for a while about trivial matters, and then he left. Helena closed the door, returned to the living room, and looked out the window. The sun was setting. The street was quiet. And for the first time in a long time, Donna Helena felt at peace. She had been broken, but now she was whole again. And this time, it was a wholeness no one could take from her. Donna Helena's life changed. Not the way they portray it in movies, with a dramatic twist and a climactic ending. It changed the way real life changes. Slowly, with small victories, with good days and difficult ones, but always moving forward. She woke up with purpose now. I knew she had orders to fill, that she had sewing group on Wednesday, that she had the market on Saturday. The house remained the same, simple and small, but now it had life. It was moving. People were coming and going. Donna Lords became a true friend. She'd stop by every now and then for coffee, and the two would talk for hours, about everything and nothing, about life, about old pains, about future plans. Helena discovered she had a lot of stories to tell. And for the first time, I had someone who wanted to listen. In the church group, she had become something of a role model. Younger women would ask her for advice. Mrs. Helena, how do you hem this? Mrs. Helena, can you teach us how to do this stitch? She taught patiently, and felt genuine joy in seeing each woman's progress. One day, the community center coordinator approached her. Mrs. Helena, we're thinking about opening a basic sewing workshop for the girls in the neighborhood. Would you be interested in teaching classes? Helena was surprised. Teacher her. I've never taught in my life, but you know how to sew, and you know how to teach. We see how the women in the group learn from you. We would pay a symbolic amount, of course, but it would be more about passing on knowledge, Helena thought, and then smiled. I accept. Classes began the following month. 8 girls, aged between 15 and 20, wanted to learn a trade. At first, Helena was nervous. What if she wasn't any good? What if no one paid attention? But on the first day, when she walked into the little room and saw those girls sitting, waiting, she felt something different. She felt like she was in the right place. She taught them the basics: thread needle, how to hem, how to sew on a button. The girls paid attention, asked questions, laughed when they made mistakes. And Helena, there in front, teaching what her mother had taught her so many years ago, felt like she was completing a cycle. The months passed. Helena's routine was busy, but it was good. She no longer felt alone. She had her friends from the group. She had her students. She had the customers who came back every week to buy her cakes. She had a life that was her own. Renato called one day. "Mom, it's been a while since we've seen each other. I was thinking about coming over this weekend." Helena was happy, but not desperate, not anxious. It was good that her son wanted to come, but she no longer needed that to feel complete. "Yes, come, son. It will be good to see you." Julia also started calling more, and this time, the conversations were different. They weren't rushed, they weren't formal. Julia asked how her mother was, what she was doing, and she truly listened. "Mom, I didn't know you were giving sewing classes. I'm so proud." Helena smiled at that. Pride? A few months ago, she would have thought it impossible for anyone to be proud of her. And Arnaldo started visiting her occasionally, not often, but sincerely. He'd bring her warm bread from the bakery, sit at the kitchen table, and they'd talk about the weather, family, and old memories. The relationship wasn't back to what it had been, but it was honest. And that was enough. One Sunday afternoon, Donna Helena was in the backyard, watering her plants, when she noticed the jabuticaba tree laden with fruit. She picked some, washed them, and ate them right there, savoring their sweet, slightly acidic flavor. She thought about the party. She thought about the humiliation. She thought about the pain she had felt that day. And he realized it didn't hurt anymore. Not because I had forgotten, but because I had grown. The pain had been real. But the pain had also been necessary. It was the pain that woke Helena up. It was the pain that forced her to look at herself and ask, "Do I deserve more than this?" And the answer, clear as day, had been yes. Donna Helena returned to the house. She made some tea, sat in the porch chair, and gazed at the street. Children played on the sidewalk. A dog barked in the distance. The sun was beginning to set, painting the sky orange and pink. She took a deep breath and smiled. Life was generous to those who learned to choose themselves. Donna Helena's story could be the story of many people. How many times have you been forgotten at a crowded table? How many times have you done everything for someone and not even received a thank you? How many times have you remained silent when you should have spoken? How many times have you made yourself small to fit into the space others left? Donna Helena spent 62 years of her life invisible. She cared, served, helped, and supported. And when the time came for her to be seen, to be included, she was left aside, as if she didn't matter, as if she had never mattered. But do you know what she discovered? That the problem was never her. The problem was believing she needed the approval of others to have value. She was waiting for someone else to realize how important she was, instead of realizing it herself. Respect is not asked for, it is imposed. This was the hardest lesson Helena learned, and it was also the one that changed everything. She didn't become a new person. She returned to who she always was, but now without fear, without shame, without waiting for permission to exist. And today, Donna Helena doesn't need a party to feel important. She doesn't need a family photo to know she belongs somewhere, because she learned that the place where she most needed to belong was within herself. She has a simple life. She didn't get rich. She didn't become famous. But she's happy. She has real friends. She teaches. She creates. She lives. And every day when she wakes up, she looks in the mirror and sees someone she respects, someone she admires, someone she loves. And that, in the end, is all there is to it. If you're listening to this story and feel a tightness in your chest, know that you're not alone. Many people carry this pain. The pain of being invisible. The pain of not being chosen. The pain of giving everything and receiving nothing. But also know that this pain does not define you. You can, like Helena, decide that enough is enough, that you deserve more, that your life is worth more than the approval of those who don't see you. You can start small, one step at a time. A firm no. A self-said yes, a hobby resumed, a friendship cultivated, a long-held dream finally brought out of the drawer. You can choose yourself. And when you do that, When you finally understand that you don't have to prove anything to anyone, everything changes. The people around you change, or you change people. And that's okay. Because you're no longer living the life others want you to live. You're living your own. Donna Helena's story ends here. But your story is still being written. And you have the power to decide what it will be like if this story touched you. If you saw yourself in any of it, leave a comment below. Tell us, have you ever felt invisible? What did you do to change that, or what do you still want to do? Like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and follow the channel, because here we tell stories that matter. Real stories, from real people, going through real things. Every story is a mirror, and every mirror can heal someone. Until next time. And remember, you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be you. And that's more than enough.